How are we doing, Kansas Jayhawks fans? This is your host, Nick Rondeau, bringing at you some Jayhawks Daily content, and excited to bring you guys some kind of new material. It's 10-10. We've got a Mount Rushmore of number 10s coming up at the end for KU history. Kind of projected starting five, maybe kind of a conference play starting five. We'll kind of see, and then kind of where the media has kind of left us off as a ranking going into this season, which they've been pretty off on us the past couple of years. I think that's pretty easy to say, as they've had us consensus number one both times the last 2 years, and we haven't exactly been the number one team in the nation come the end of the year. So they're a little bit off on us this year, but we'll kind of take a look at that later. And first, we're going to start with I'm thinking game one, Green Bay starting five. Very very simple. We're starting with two players that I'm positive about, and that's going to be our backcourt. It's going to be Darren Peterson and Melvin Council Jr. I'm positive those guys will be our first two starting guards. DP it says for itself. We all know Darren Peterson's obviously going to be starting, but we know he's going to be bringing the ball up a lot of the time too. We know he's going to be scoring. We know he's going to be our 1A scoring option. There is no 1B. I mean, maybe if he wants to show up at some point in the season, someone doesn't matter. We're counting on Darren to get our big, 20 points a game. And honestly, I think it's solidly Melvin Council. Just kind of from a recent interview Darren Peterson talked about, he said that he thinks him and Melvin will be one of the best backcourts in the country. So I think kind of he picked his running mate. I think that, I'm not going to speak, maybe he's got great chemistry with him. Maybe he, really sees. I don't think it's that crazy that Melvin was going to get the start anyways. He played for I would say a scrappy St. Bonnie's team last year, St. Bonaventures. And, he averaged 15 points a game there, had about 6 assists. I would say it's a perfect person to kind of put right next to Darren Peterson. He shot over 30% from three. Not great, not terrible. He's going to have that kind of running mate, someone who can help play a little bit, off, doesn't mind playing off ball with Darren Peterson bringing the ball up, but also has incredible capability of bringing that ball up. But I think being a good off ball shooter for him, a good change of pace guard, will definitely help that backcourt. Especially early on in the year, because who knows how long it takes Darren Peterson to settle in. He might not even be settled in by game 2 against UNC. No, I see Darren Peterson coming into this system flawlessly. He'll be scoring 20 within the first couple games for sure. I just think that's what has to be done to kind of win games early on. So I'm definitely seeing those two as our backcourt. And I think spot number 3 is kind of the bigger question mark. And I'm not calling my shot per se, but this is who I'm thinking. I think Bill Self goes with Marco Jackson. And that could rub people the wrong way. I will have to say, 2 years ago, watching Marco Jackson, after all of the hype, McDonald's All-American, super athlete, great, the guy couldn't shoot the ball. To be completely honest, he could not shoot the ball with any level of confidence. That's why Bill took him out of the starting lineup a couple years ago, and it really did help the team a lot. The problem was, we couldn't really have anyone else to plug and play. That team was so shallow. There was no depth. So Marco coming off the bench had pretty much the same impact as him in the starting lineup. The team had a little bit of juice, but this is 2 years later. Yes, it's post-huge patellar injury for Marco, but he's still, yes, his athleticism was his key trait, I would say. Is he going to lose a step? Potentially. But I'd say it could be closer to like a half a step. This happened very early on. The surgery's been cleared. He's been cleared for, all basketball activities for the entire summer. He's been playing up to full speed with these guys. He's been with Bill Self for 2 years. I just think I can't see Bill really going away from his type of guy who's kind of, I would say reward him for staying at this long with KU medical team, with the KU, basketball team, everything about it. So I see Marco really helping, run the floor, being that cutter, those great options that Darren or Melvin can kind of find out. He's also pretty tenacious, a defender. I love who doesn't love a great defensive player, but I also see him very much helping out, on the defensive end. Great defender, and he's going to have to rebound because the 4 that I'm for seeing us kind of play at the beginning of the year is going to be Trey White. And, he's like a 6'5", 6'6", some even saying up to 6'7" guard. That's not exactly your typical, you're seeing your power forward going to be, a traditional type of guard. Maybe not a traditional guard. He's more of a Swiss Army knife, like Bill even says. But that's the thing. We're going to be a little bit undersized because Flory's, they list him at 6'10". He kind of seems like a 6'9", but, we'll say Flory 6'10". Yes, the wingspan gets him over 7 feet. But if you guys didn't hear that, yes, I revealed Flory Badunga will be our starting five. I just think, Trey White's, it's going to be a good change of pace. And that's kind of what we're saying. Early run and gun. I will have four players who can bring the ball up. I would say of those four, El Marco, I'd like you to bring up the ball up, please. Just personally, I've seen Trey White at his previous programs. I really saw him excel at Louisville bringing the ball up, and he didn't bring it up all the time. I feel like Louisville had a similar system. They had a whole bunch of guards, and plus that team was a dumpster fire. That was before Pat Kelsey. That team was just not that team was just not fully ready to be what it's capable of because a lot of those guys are talented players playing in other programs. Considering Trey White the next year goes to Illinois, has another great year, gets over 12 points again. Another starter for them, going to have another 6-7 rebounds, 5-6 assists. I think Trey White's going to be a crucial piece for this team early on, and I'm not going to say he's got like a short leash. I just do see like Bill's going to, especially like early on, I'm looking specifically at that UNC game. Green Bay, no offense, Doug Gottlieb. I'm hoping any starting five can handle you guys. I'm hoping Darren Peterson can handle you guys. Let's be real. But for when it comes to UNC, that starting five kind of looks like it's shaping up where, Visar's got to be that 7-footer. So we'll have to match up and buy a little bit, some big rotations. But Floor is obviously starting. And then I do that 4. Caleb Wilson's their big recruit, the top 5 recruit in the nation. He's going to be, he's about 6'10". So that already puts them at a huge height advantage. So do I really see Trey White starting that game? I kind of do. I think we're going to try to outpace him early, but I wouldn't be surprised if very early on for an early substitution type thing where Paul Mbaya gets thrown in or puts Florida to the 4 or potentially even Bryson Taylor. I mean, it could be too early for the freshman. I think he's a very developed freshman at least. The guy enrolled last January. He's been in Bill's Self system for a while. I just think they might try to stretch these teams out a little bit and shoot the ball well because Trey White he can be out at that 3-point line as the 4 and he can shoot. If we get open shooters, Darren Peterson dribble drive, penetrate, gets 2 defenders coming at him. Find your guys in the corner. Find a Melvin. Find potentially a Marco Cutter, and then find Trey White. Honestly, in that corner, I don't mind that. From our 4, if he's gonna be the undersized 4, at least stretch them out. So I think Trey White will still be in that starting lineup for that game too. That's going to be our starting 5, but don't be super surprised. And that kind of, gets into the next point. When I say season 5, I kind of mean by the conference play. And I think we're going to need a little bit better shooting because in conference play, those games are tighter, they're a lot harder, and I think a lot of it will be who knows how Marco's wheels will keep going. Is he going to look good? Is he going to look bad? And more than anything, is Jaden Dawson going to look good coming off the bench? Because hypothetically, say this guy is looking like a perfect 6-man, coming off the bench like prime Remy Martin, playing super well. Maybe don't mess it up. Maybe El Marco's got a very short leash. You pull him after 2 minutes and keep Jaden Dawson coming off the bench. But I really don't mind playing either Jaden Dawson at that 3 instead of El Marco, or potentially seeing who's kind of budded from the group as sliding Trey White down to that 3, and then either that 4 is going to be filled by Flory, Paul Mbaya as the 5, or I would say potentially more realistically and just faith in this group is going to be Flory at the 5, as that's what he played pretty much all of last year. He didn't play much with Hunter Dickinson set. And the 4 being Bryson Taylor. I can see this guy absolutely start cracking in the starting 5 by conference play. I think he's really going to get his feet wet. I'm very excited about Bryson Taylor's potential. If he can continue to stretch the floor, if he can continue that 18, maybe an even out foot, jumper range, I think he's easily going to be slotting in fine. And Flory's going to be at that starting five. Even our first two conference games, being TCU and UCF, those are not particularly big teams, so we could easily play that shorter lineup. But I think a lot of it is, how's El Marco holding up? Is Melvin still running, great running mate for DP? And are we getting killed on the glass? I think that's got to be, the biggest question marks we're kind of going. But Jaden Dawson at that coming off the bench, I think he's going to start letting it explode. The guy was having 7 attempts per game last year for Chicago. I'd like to see similar numbers, honestly, even coming off the bench. I'd love to see a lot of attempts. And kind of after seeing that, where do we kind of see ourselves? And maybe not we, ESPN. ESPN has us falling to number 22 in the ESPN ranking for their final preseason ranking, and I'm not offended. I think this is a somewhat reasonable, expectation. Darren Peterson is weirdly, he's like the not biggest question mark. Everyone knows we're going to be relying on Darren Peterson, but they're not even exactly predicting. They're expecting greatness out of him. It's our transfers they really don't know anything about. Melvin Council, Trey White, Jaden Dawson, they don't know what they're going to provide to us. Everyone's kind of wondering how Flory's going to do as a full-time starter. I think he's going to exceed and he's going to excel at a very high rate, but it's kind of just annoying to see the players they put like the teams they put ahead of us. Wisconsin and Gonzaga right ahead of us. Wisconsin does not. Do we see how they flamed out last year? Tough to talk. We can't really say much, but we almost have a completely new team. We had a couple returners, but it's difficult because Houston at number 3. Okay, I get it. BYU at number 7. Okay, they had a lot of returning. Richie Saunders, AJ DeBonsa, fine, whatever. Texas Tech, they lost a lot of guys. Yeah, sure, they kept J.D. Toppin and Anderson, but they lost Darren Williams, and he was a huge part of that, dominant lineup. So I'm a little bit disappointed in that. Arizona, they love this recruiting class. I guess they think Koa P is going to be so amazing. Oh yeah, Bryce James. I don't see that. And then Iowa State at number 15, all ahead of us, putting it at 6, which is where we finished the last 2 years in Big 12 play. So I can't be that mad. It's disappointing to see that the hopes are so out on Kansas. People are so out on this transfer type of team, but I think this is built exactly the way Bill Self's got it. Couple of great transfers, tenured guys, gonna contribute early, and freshmen that can contribute early too. Cole Rosario, I didn't mention because I don't see him cracking the starting 5, but that guy's gonna be great off the bench. Samus Calderon, hoping he'll be great off the bench. I have a couple more questions about him, which is weirder because Rosario reclassified, but he reclassified saying, I'm ready. I am ready to contribute now. So I see Cole Rosario really helping us out at some point, but this is just, I think, one of Bill Self's better built teams. And yeah, it doesn't seem so balanced because I keep saying Darren Peterson's name, expecting him to do so much, but I really like how he's doing it. And maybe it's just because there's no Dickinson. This defense is going to be good again. It's going to be excellent, I will say. And anything, we're not going to get killed off of switches. Playing an undersized lineup, you can kind of switch a lot more things than you're used to, and that's something that Bill has done a lot. We definitely try to pass off our defenders, and with an undersized lineup and no Hunter Dickinson, sky's the limit for that. And now we're going to go in, so October 10th, 10-10, we're going to our Mount Rushmore of number 10s in KU history. And this is not just, the typical KU history. It's also going to be slightly based on, some of my memories. And so first up, we're going to go with one of my first memories as a Kansas Jayhawk at all. That's going to be Kirk Heinrich. 2000 to 2003, Kirk Heinrich, on first number 10 I will say that I ever saw. Unbelievable player. Co-Mr. Iowa with, other KU legend, Nick Collison. They teamed up, and boy did they have some runs. Kirk Heinrich ended out 1,700 points, almost 700 assists, 4th most in program history, over 206 steals, 6th most in program history, 3rd team All-American in 2003, NCAA West most outstanding player, back-to-back Final Fours, back-to-back Big 12 titles, 7th pick in the draft in his last year. It was just super exciting for Kirk. The guy was absolute electricity, and it does help when, yes, you play against Arizona and to make it into the Final Four, that Elite Eight game, and when he put up 28 points and knocked down 6 threes. I mean, that's really what gelled into my brain. That was I don't maybe a first memory. I don't know. I just remember Kirk Heinrich was so explosive. Even in that clutch game when he blocked a shot at the end, blocked that three. I mean, emphatically. Kirk Heinrich just rings to me the absolute number 10 that I loved, I fell in love with, and unfortunately that team didn't win the title that year. Unfortunately, in the Natty, if I think free throws killed him, shooting 12 for 30, especially even at the end, a couple of misses from some trustworthy players. But it's just unfortunate to kind of see how that happened. But next up, number 2, we're going to go with Jalen Wilson. Yes, everyone remembers Jalen Wilson, last guy to put one up on that banner. 2023 Julius Erving winner, consensus All-American his last year with KU, Big 12 Player of the Year, led the conference in scoring and rebounding, a Wooden Award finalist, and above all else, a champion. Yes, he came back after that championship season. That was amazing. So happy that he did it. Had an unbelievable scoring run, 9th best scoring season in Kansas history, which sounds almost less than it should be. The guy was going on runs in his last 2 games in the tournament when we got knocked out. Combined for 40 points in 2 games. I mean, he was just so much fun to watch. I mean, just so many clutch games that this guy had, so many clutch shots. Jalen Wilson, thank you so much for being you. You made it so much fun. He had a 5-game stretch in 2023 where he scored 133 points. No one had done that in KU history. Just thank you, Jalen Wilson. I appreciate you. But number 3, we're going to one of my other favorites, kind of what rebooted my KU juices and systems, and kind of gave me that feeling after that 2008 championship that we were going to get another. That's Tyshawn Taylor, and I love Tyshawn Taylor for a lot of reasons. Love playing with a guy in NBA 2K for some reason, for being the Brooklyn Nets, but guy was an absolute stud at KU. He just loved to attack the rim. I love a guy who loved to spin move as well. Was not afraid to dunk the ball on anybody. And, maybe he dunked maybe a couple too many times. People are saying that, a game against Purdue in the tournament when he dunked with 2.5 seconds left was not smart. We won the game. We'll take it to Sean. But him running with, Jeff Withey, Thomas Robinson, just getting these full court passes, the pick and rolls. I love Tyshawn, He had 22 points in that Final Four win over UNC. Kind of broke him out of that slump. He was 0 for 20 from 3 in that tournament run, but we made it to the Natty still. Yeah, we got blown out by Kentucky, but he was so much fun. 3rd-team All-American, 1st-team Big 12, a Bob Cousy finalist, all-tournament team as well. He really made me believe again. So Tyshawn Taylor, shout out you. Thank you so much. You were a great number 10. And our number 4, this is where I'm going to say I confidently did not watch this person, but you cannot have a number 10 competition and not have a guy in the rafters, and that is Charlie B. Black. I mean, played from 41 to 43 and then 45 to 47 because, yes, he had to serve in World War II in the Army Air Corps, where he was awarded Distinguished Flying Crosses, and those are his accolades for just the war. So respect to Charlie B. Black, but not only that, our locker room's named after him. He was the first Jayhawks 1,000 career point scorer and the only 4-time All-American in school history. Charlie B. Black, shout out. That's absolute respect. The guy was just a champion all around. It looked like every year the guy was getting a champion when looking back at his, kind of accolades, what you'd say. But Charlie B. Black, number 10, I would say the first great number 10 for KU, obviously. He was a 6'5" forward center. And, thank God he fell out of love with Wisconsin his freshman year and decided to come back to KU, move back home to Kansas City, and he was a very, very good player for KU. So, honorable mention. Got to shout out my guy, Svi Mikhailuk, recent NBA champion, Svi Mikhailuk also. But guy was just so much fun to watch shooting his threes. I mean, how many times did we all say, Svi for 3? I mean, he was fun. Brings me to the Frank Mason days. But I tried some new content here today. Just try to, shake it up a little bit of history, a little bit of, preseason previews. But just wanted to kind of get the KU juices flowing because, yes, we're getting closer. We are 20-something days away from tipping off against Doug Gottlieb's Green Bay basketball team, and I am excited. I hope you guys are excited. Like, comment, subscribe. Please let me know any, content you want me to do, any questions you have. I'll try to answer some questions in some future pods, but I really appreciate you guys listening. I know this is a little bit of a longer episode today, but I hope you guys really enjoy the content. Tried to be more fun with it, and rock chalk, guys. Go Jayhawks.